I think we are live.
We're
Da,
here.
da, 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 da. I had even bought one of your albums off Bandcamp for $0 because I'm a cheap jerk,
Yeah.
and had it all
All,
queued up and ready to go. But no music
uh,
for you guys today. Sorry.
you fucked up
Yeah,
again.
that's just I'm like your band's worst possible PR man, because yesterday I bring it up but don't actually give anybody a link to it, and then
I think we're our own worst PR people because we barely. I forget to talk about it, and then I hear one of our own tracks and I was like, man, this is awesome. Who made this? And then I'm like, oh, this was pretty good. I should tweet about that again. Um, yeah,
yeah, it's
standing out in
tough.
the music world is tough. It's like the only thing harder is probably trying to run a video game website.
Standing around in the music industry takes everything you got. See, I'm not even good at parodying
Case in point.
songs, right?
Case in point. So,
So
what's new?
I don't know. I had to pull up my. I'm still pulling up my Google Drive because I'm. This is like the most since I was trying to be fancy and add features to the show. What that really means is I'm not at all prepared for the show.
Right. Of course. I'm not prepared because I didn't play anything really.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm disappointed because I've been waiting for you to like finish Watch Dogs so you can move on to something that maybe I care about. But
I mean, I did. I finished it after we did the show last week. And it kind of sucked because the last mission was actually really fun, and it just made me resent every other mission in that fucking game. Because it
it's
was
like
like,
here's
what
what
the
you could
hell?
have had.
Yeah, it was and it wasn't perfect. It's still kind of the busted ass stealth that I don't really like, but I felt like it was easier to navigate the level design they have you go through, and it's really satisfying. But just then you wonder what the fuck happened with 90% of this game if they had that in them. Um, so yeah, I don't really like that game. I like the characters, but I don't really like that game. Uh, and then I've got a link this morning that's a fan game Mega Man project I think they've been working on for 8 years, called Mega Man 2.5D. And
So they made it twice as fast as Capcom can make a new Mega Man game.
yeah, at this rate, fans will be in charge of the Mega Man series. Um, and it's a pretty interesting take. It's classic Mega Man, your 8-bit, but it kind of has almost like a Paper Mario sort of 3D to it. Obviously not stylized in that way,
I thought you were gonna
but
say like gameplay, and I'm like, huh?
yeah, it's a RPG now.
Yeah,
Um, and it's just interesting, and it ran well. I didn't have any problems. I played a few stages today. I don't know how long it is. Probably pretty fucking long considering it took them this long to make it. Um, but it has gamepad support. So I have my controller plugged in. I go into the options, and you can't just hit the input and change it, but it does know you're trying to change the input. So all morning today, I'm just sitting there fucking hitting my keyboard and hitting my controller on the button I wanted to change to, hoping to hit that right combination to switch the button over. And I had to do that with every fucking input.
nice.
So I don't know what the hell is up there. If they've never played a game where you have to change the inputs. So that was kind of a pain in the ass. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's free. So check it out until Capcom tells them to stop, which I don't think they'll actually do. Capcom isn't
Yeah, they seem to
Nintendo
be
about these
right,
things.
and I
Well, I
understand
mean,
both like approaches. You got to protect your property, but at the same time, like if you're not
But
putting
see,
anything out actively, what are you hurting?
yeah.
And
Well, I mean, in Capcom, they even Mega Man's big anniversary a couple of years ago, their big reveal was a fan game.
right,
It turned out to be not a particularly great one. And a better Mega Man fan game came out that same year, Mega Man Unlimited, which everyone I think should play. But like they seem to be more open to like, yeah, we like fans doing kind of weird shit with, this style of game.
They're
And
looking for ideas.
yeah. Well, they're looking for people to hire probably, because they have no idea what the fuck to do, except apparently revitalize Resident Evil. Like that's the weird thing is like if Resident Evil 7 is the start of a trend, like I'll have to like stop shitting on Capcom, and that would be weird.
Weird. Yeah, somebody mentioned today on Twitter they were talking about it and how it's actually had a slow start in Japan though, which is unusual for Capcom games being a Japanese developer, but hoping that the West will pull it through. And it really hit me. I made the comment. It's like it's true. It's a Japanese developer and a Japanese series, but I have never thought of Resident Evil that way. Like it seems so targeted towards Western audiences, even like the other entries.
Well, I mean, like it's ridiculous in all the ways that like you kind of think of when you think of like sort of Japanese like action adventure stories. Like the Resident Evil series is fucking baffling. But at the same time, like I don't. Like maybe I just don't. I don't have the right idea of like Japan, but to me, it's like is that even the climate for video games there anymore? Like I'm sure they have video game like the typical video game setup, but they always struck me as more like like they're just on this trend of like they're more mobile. Everybody's either on their phone or on a 3DS or something, and it's like how many people they're like, I have, PS4 and all the consoles and shit. And not only they have that, but they're also that next subset where it's like, I want a horror game.
Right. Like those. And again, me and you are probably the two most out of touch people you could possibly talk to about Japanese culture. At least I am. I guess I shouldn't speak for you. But like
I failed a quarter of Japanese in high school, so I think I'm pretty qualified.
When I think of what games tend to seem bigger in Japan, like you said, mobile games a lot bigger, and then if you're gonna sit with like a serious like long play console type game, it seems to be the ones that are more like detail oriented. Things like Dark Souls, where you have all these like stats to really dive into, like and that kind of thing. Not something like Resident Evil. I mean, it is. I'm not saying it can't be, and that certainly the person's not wrong. It's just, it's funny that I completely like forget that that's a Japanese made game because it just feels like.
Well, I think that's also like I think for a lot of like I think about classic Japanese horror games like Clock Tower and the original Resident Evil and all that stuff like. I have to wonder if maybe there was just like something that was appealing about like how those games played, like kind of the stiff, almost adventure games, sort of like you don't get around smoothly and stuff. And I wonder if like they see Resident Evil 7 and they see kind of the first person horror that even though as all the reviews I see, like they captured the spirit of original Resident Evil, they just put in this new first person mechanic. But I wonder if they see that and they think like, oh, it's, they're going the route of amnesia and shit and like it doesn't appeal to them maybe. Yeah. But also I think it's just that thing of like, the Japanese video game audience to me has always like been on this very different curve that Western audiences are on. And I heard their Western sales were really good. So.
And that's what the person wasn't, that's what he's saying. He's saying, hoping that that'll pull through to make up for the slow Japanese sales. And like I say, it doesn't shock me that it's so. And I think the other part of it is that like it's a game that's set with like American characters in the American Deep South. Like
but that's always been true about Resident Evil.
Well, sure.
Like
but that's one of the reasons why I don't particularly think of it as a Japanese series. There's not a lot of like, on the surface anyway, Japanese culture that goes into them.
That's a very interesting point. Like like how many Western developers like try to tackle
other cultures?
Well, they tackle other cultures, but how many do they try to do like actual Asian cultures. Like we never see it. And, but Japanese games, like, you know, for as long as I could remember, they were like placing, you know, fucking, you got Solid Snake and shit, and just
Right.
like the American ideals of like what is cool. You know, and just sort of that trying to tackle that culture, like that's a really
Yeah,
interesting point.
it's
Like
like
I wonder,
they don't shy away from it, but us, it's like we couldn't possibly think of trying to sell something that's not targeted specifically to ourselves. And I don't even want
yeah,
to say targeted because obviously a lot of the Japanese Metal Gear is definitely targeted at a Japanese audience. But then
yeah,
they also do a lot of games, which is both ways, where it's kind of a nondescript. You know, if you're making a fantasy
yeah.
game in a make believe place, it doesn't necessarily have to resemble any.
I just realized playing Phoenix Wright Spirit of Justice that that game is supposed to, like, the main characters live in America. And to
I
me,
thought
that
it
was
was
like a,
London for some reason, but I'm probably thinking of Professor Layton. Isn't that?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think that's London or some fucking fantasy.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah,
like kind of
they won't call it London, but then, you
right,
know,
right.
like Dunlawn or something. Um, but like that shocked me because that game, like all the Phoenix Wright games are fucking anime as fuck. Um, like really Japanese. Like you're constantly like you go downtown and you're in like a Japanese village, but like there's points in that game where it's like I went back to America. Like what? When?
Yeah.
And I don't know why a guy named Phoenix Wright to me sounded like that's a Japanese guy. But
Well, I mean, it does sound like something off of an Americanized Japanese restaurant menu. I'll have the Phoenix Wright number 37 with fried rice and extra
yeah,
egg rolls.
yeah.
Now
But
I'm
that is
hungry. But
interesting. I'm wondering if, you know, like what is it that like I'd have to know like what's the case of, like how has this series always done in Japan? Like, you know, was 4 big there? It felt like Resident Evil 6 was like it sold well everywhere, even though it shouldn't have.
well, but I
Uh,
think that was more of a case of people were so desperate and so hopeful that it might like bring the next like good installment in the series that I think people like jumped on it right away and then were like, "Oops."
well,
Uh,
I was thinking about that too with, you know, Resident Evil 7 coming out. I was kind of looking at all the series and like I think there's a weird thing about Resident Evil 5 where like when it came out, everyone was the consensus was it like it's not as good as 4, but everyone still really liked that game at the time, and it did well. But I think it was just one of those things like it's almost like a BioShock problem of like it comes out, everybody acclaims it, but then the longer it's out, the more people kind of pick it apart, and then everybody's kind of like it almost felt like everybody was hopeful for Resident Evil 6 to revitalize something that they didn't know needed revitalizing initially. Like they just sort of decided that like, you know, now this is like they need to get back to 4 because the 5 was a big misstep. But like I look at old reviews, it's like everybody, all of you guys fucking liked it. What happened?
well,
Um,
and that's an interesting thing I was thinking of last night because somebody was talking about movies, but it kind of same thing applies where it seems so many times a game or something comes out and it either gets like hammered like critically like panned just across the board right away and then a year or two later everybody kind of was like yeah, you know, it's actually pretty good, I enjoy it, or it goes
yeah.
the reverse, it comes out and people are like yeah, this is good, and then the more time they get with it they're like well, it wasn't as good as it could have been. You know, it a lot
Yeah.
of times that initial reception does not stay the same.
Like like it's kind of weird, and it almost makes me question reviews on another level more so than we've already done kind of the past few months. But in some ways, I feel like I have a better perspective on a game like a year after I played it.
Well, what I think it
Like,
shows is how much the that other outside influences can affect your perception of a game. If there's a huge like positive buzz around a game and you play it, and then you subconsciously like overlook some things. You're like, yeah, everybody, this is a great experience. We all enjoyed it, and I liked it. And I'm not even saying you're lying to yourself. It's just you go in with a different mindset.
You like the experience in that moment versus how that game or whatever, book, movie, like how that stuck with you after that initial experience, like how, and there's not really a right answer, but like I'm finding myself kind of asking, what is more valid? Like, hey, like how you felt in that moment, or how do you feel after like a year, because to bring it back to BioShock, like regardless of what fucking Will says on Twitter, I thought BioShock Infinite was great. I think it was Will. I don't want to trash Will.
Let's trash him because he'll never hear this anyway.
Yeah, he's not listening.
Will's opinion on BioShock Infinite, whichever opinion he has, is wrong. He's an idiot.
Right. I'm right. Batman was terrible. That's my opinion on BioShock. But I really loved BioShock Infinite when I played it. And then, as I was kind of looking over old reviews and kind of thinking about, the scores I gave everything and would I change it, there's always, minor things of, and maybe that's too low, maybe that's too high. But now where I'm at, I'm like, yeah, Infinite didn't deserve a perfect score, not even close. That's one that I'll really, kind of raise my hand and be like, I was wrong about that one. Because after more time away from it, I'm like, I still like that game, but there's stuff wrong with it. So, and but at the same time, I'm not going to go back and change that score. It's just me sort of questioning how I felt in that moment. Is that any, what should you be telling?
The other thing that makes that difficult, though, is because now you're looking at it through the lens of all the games you've played since.
True.
So then it's hard to say, well, back then, would this really have bugged me? Should I have knocked points off for this? Or is this something that other games have just raised the bar on? And we could do an entire, month series on reviews and what their purpose is and how they work and are they even needed anymore. But
right.
we've had those conversations many times over the 5 years that we've been doing this. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of things go into that.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got on that, but we did it. We're very good at jumping from topic to topic.
Watch Dogs 2. Let's dive into the deepest conversations on game criticism that we can.
Yeah.
You finished that, and you said you were playing the Mega Man.
Yeah, I actually might start streaming that. It's really about anytime you get a game that's not running in Steam, and even sometimes when it's running in Steam, or it's not something on an emulator, there's always that fear of anytime it's just a raw application, trying to stream it, you don't know how it's going to handle it, because you're not sure how much processing power it's trying to use. And so, I might do some test streams for that. If I can stop getting fucking notices from my goddamn internet provider about how much I'm using. It's
so I'm an internet star, damn it. Leave me alone.
It's so annoying because it sends me these updates almost as a pop-up.
Oh, nice.
Where it's you immediately click away from it. It's fuck, malware. But instead it's just my shitty goddamn internet.
Are you guys limited, or they just feel the need to?
You're limited, but it's that shitty kind of limited where nothing happens to your internet, but you get charged more. So they just charge you another $50 or something. They're I don't know how much it is, but if you go over your amount.
That's what we had. We're on Time Warner, which is now Spectrum or whatever here where I'm at, and they're terrible. But
I think they all are.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, because it's one of those where there's not a lot of competition, so they can do whatever the hell they want. But every now and then, we'll get a notice oh, AT&T Uverse is now available in your area, and it's oh, cool, it's cheaper, and the TV service seems okay, and then you look in the internet service, it's oh, you can get our high speed package, which is like a quarter of what my current speed is. And they're like, and you get up to 2 gigs a month. And it's like, yeah. And they're like, and it's funny because they're like, which is enough for most people. And I'm like, not me. I'm special.
Yeah.
And it's not just this stuff, but my wife's a photographer and she's constantly doing.
It's probably enough
big
for
files.
most people in Ohio. I would bet that.
Probably. But no, it doesn't nearly meet my. And they're like, and if you go over, we only charge you like $10 per meg or something. Like it wasn't that
per meg. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my bills would be like $800 a month, and
yeah,
it's like damn. But so that's what they do too. I think they're trying to make it superficially look like there's competition there, but there's still really not because nothing compares to what I'm already getting.
Yeah, like I mean, we had the competitor internet guy fucking company, like they come door to door in my neighborhood all the time trying to get people to switch, and I already have a bad attitude towards them because
yeah, well, I've got a bad attitude anytime somebody knocks on my door. That's not.
Yeah, I'm really hermiting up as I get older. I don't like people coming by trying to sell me shit at all. But like this time, one of the times the guy showed up, woke me up because he needed to get in my backyard and get to a fucking pole that like connected to my neighbor who had their service. And I do that. And then he comes back to my door telling me that I have to cut the fucking bush that's in front of the pool so he can get up there because he can't get up there right now. And I'm like,
no, I don't.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't have to do fucking shit.
Well, first of all, you guys rent, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, that's not my bush, it's landlord's bush.
Yeah, it's landlord's bush. Also, this pole isn't in our yard. Like he just wanted to get to it from our yard.
Ah. Yeah.
It's in an intersection of like the way we live, the street we're on, basically 4 people's backyards intersect into this corner, and it's kind of all divided by this pole. But there are other yards you could go into and get up the fucking pole. And this guy's just being a dick and doesn't want to climb it anyway, so he won't go to my next door neighbor and go into his fucking backyard. So I already fucking hate this company. And then are you still there?
Yep.
Right.
I'm just riveted by your cable person story.
Yeah,
because I was waiting for you to get to the part where I was hoping the exact same guy tried to sell you their service.
No, the next guy was really polite.
I would just love the irony of some guy being such a lazy dick and then be like, "Oh, you should come to our company," and be like, "No."
Yeah, but this was one of those fucking, I don't know what came over me. This is the first time I didn't just shut the door in someone's face. But I was like, all right, well, because I was like thinking, like we were talking about how expensive our cable and internet is. We have Comcast, so it's fucking abysmal.
Yeah, they were supposed to buy Time Warner, and I was like sobbing, and then of course the government shot that down for some reason.
Yeah, well, that'll change. But I wanted to hear the numbers because they were bragging like, yeah, we got, our speeds are faster and shit. And I got the numbers, had them write them down, and I was like, yeah, I can't give you any. Yes, we'll do it, but if we do it, I will call and say you referred us and all that shit. And it was, it wasn't even close. Like, and that sucks because Comcast, like I said, they're annoying. Mm-hmm. Shit doesn't work all the time. They don't make that right by you, but they'll be sure to remind you if you're 100 gigs away from your limit at the end of the month.
Well, that's what Time Warner was always like. You could have their pole come down on top of your car, and you call and be like, "Yeah, your cable line's down." They'll be like, "Did you reboot your box?"
Yeah, fuck, dude. It's
like a pole on the end of the street's on fire, and they're like, "Well, we'll have to set up an appointment in 3 weeks for the guy to come into your house." It's like, no.
Yeah.
You know,
For like, it's just frustrating. Like, I get mad at myself because, like, for as much as I use the internet, I sure hate a lot about it. Like, I hate the people who give it to you. I hate most of the people on it. Um, it's just a mess. Like
yeah, yeah.
living in the woods. It's the only way.
We'll go to it's Ben and Steve live from some cave in the woods, and there'd be
Yeah.
the same amount. Maybe we'd get like a chipmunk listening to us. So there's that. But
Need fire. Well, what
yeah.
do you think about fire? Fire hot.
uh, ludonarrative dissonance still.
Yep.
I've been playing a few new things. Like my notes,
Oh.
I've been like trying to take all week to actually flesh out some notes, and I got 2 things. So that's about as like crazy as my schedule's been too. Like just a down week, sort of.
I wish my schedule was crazy. I'm just
No, that's
fucking.
I mean that was an ironic crazy. Like I just haven't been doing anything with video games, and there really hasn't been a lot of video game. There's been like certain other world events that have dominated the news cycle
Mhm.
that I really don't
Yeah.
want to get into on the show because we get enough of it
Because
everywhere
there's
else.
yeah.
But
Let the Njoystic show be your breath of fresh air
right, when,
from the
when
horrible
we're the
realities
positive
of
break from the
the
rest of your world, you know things are bad. But
Yeah.
anyway, I didn't get anything new, but I installed some games that have been on my like Steam library for a long time. Well, no, one not so long, but Darksiders War Mastered Edition. I think
Oh,
I
yeah.
got that out of some Humble Bundle at some point. I'm pretty sure it was. That's how I ended up with it in my library. I don't know. Things just show up in my Steam library that I'm like, I don't remember buying this, but here it is. Um, I had played Darksiders a little bit on PlayStation 3 a long time ago. And this is the first one, of course, not the sequel. War Mastered Edition is just the like updated. You know, it does have crisper graphics, although I wouldn't say better graphics. It's just a high res textures or whatever.
Yeah, polished.
Yeah, but I was like, oh yeah, I'll give that a try because I'm kind of in the mood for, some kind of RPG-y, action-y, whatever. Darksiders
Like,
sucks. I hate it. I know some people like it, but I hated it the first time, and I'm still hating it. Like, it's got promise, but it's just like the camera is so shitty. The controls are pretty crappy. The combat, it suffers a problem that a lot of games, all the Final Fantasy games I've ever played have the same issue. Is they want to start you out to make sense with like nothing, and you have to unlock different weapons and moves, but that means like the beginning of your game is literally just run around and hit the punch button. There's not really, they're like, oh, you can dodge to the side and punch. It's like, cool.
did you say Final Fantasy? I don't
Yeah.
see the connection.
Because every Final Fantasy game I've ever played, there's like a first hour or two of the game where it's like, oh, you're in this fight, and the menu pops up. It's like, do you want to attack or flee? Because you haven't unlocked any abilities or anything yet. And it's like, well, at this point, you should have it on auto battle because I literally have a choice of what I can do. I don't know.
I mean, that's not entirely true. I mean, using items and stuff like it. I've played a fair few Final Fantasy games, and I've definitely hated my fair few of Final Fantasy games. But like I would say there's not really, the ones I've played haven't had that like huge, like, oh man,
I
all I'm
was
doing is hitting
exaggerating when I
attack.
said an hour or two, but it just
And
you start out
I
with
think,
like nothing at your disposal, and you have to get through that until things start to get more interesting.
like the problem I'm having, and I haven't played Darksiders, so maybe it's a little more painful in that, but like there's always that sense of progression, like in especially in an action game where you are killing things in a pretty simple way, and then like you start getting better weapons, and you start getting items that help you navigate the world more, and like that's like a game would not be
Sure, but
like,
I mean,
most games would not be able to function if you could just do everything.
but the problem is you need to make the basic thing. Darksiders, it's literally the common enemy. You're running around the world, and there's like these little like zombie things, and
Yeah,
like
like the basic thing you're doing is not fun, right?
right,
Yeah.
and you could just punch it, and there's like you have to unlock your like double jump, and you have to unlock, and I remember it gets more interesting as you unlock like the different weapon powers, and I think you get different weapons you can switch between too, kind of like in Devil May Cry with like the scythe and the sword and that kind of thing. So it
Yeah.
gets better, but the biggest thing for me is a really crappy camera. I mean, it's just awkward and
Yeah.
disorienting.
Yeah. But to like, I think, for an action game, like you mentioned Devil May Cry, like part of what I think makes Devil May Cry work is like you do start with that, you know, blank slate. You always have to do mission one kind of as is, but like the way you upgrade in that game, the way you can like, decide like, oh, I want a new combo for this weapon, or I want to, enhance the power of that, or I just want to double jump, and like how you can choose how you upgrade really is a smart way to kind of curtail that sort of frustration of like having to do everything in a set order.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like,
Darksiders does that too. Once you unlock the basic things, then you collect souls, and that's how you upgrade your moves and stuff. And like I said, I think it gets better. Other than like I said, the biggest thing is
the
it's just
fucking
not
camera.
right. But it's one that I'd probably have stuck to longer. And then I realized, hey, wait, I've got Dishonored on here, and I
There you
liked
go.
that game back in the day. But I just never back in the day. It was like 2 years ago, but.
Yeah.
Um, but I just never I didn't play it much because I kind of migrated away from my Xbox, and so I installed that through Steam, and that game is so good. I I'm having so much fun with it. Like now, there's things that I have problems with, like your main ability, the blink, I think it's called, the teleport.
Yeah.
It can be very like
It's
undependable.
finicky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
And we knew that.
right.
We've always known that. Um,
But
yeah. I mean, Dishonored one, I stand by. Like, I think that's a really amazing game, and
and
you know,
for someone
like
like me that's not great at those games, I think the first time I played it on normal, and this time I just slapped it on easy, like just to because I wanted to get through it and play it first, and that makes it really interesting on a game that has so many different approaches, and then you're not constantly failing because it's not overly. It feels like there's less enemies. I've played through all the parts that I got through the first time. In fact, I just finished the like mission that I. The last time I played was the time you watched me stream, which
yeah.
was that mission where you kidnap the royal physician, and
And you watched Corvo launch himself off a bridge.
with the physician
Awesome.
over my shoulder, from what I
Yeah.
remember. Right.
At least he's okay. Shattered ribs, but
But so I completed that mission, and it's also I think makes it even. It's one of those rare games that like the second time, now everything from this point on is going to be new to me, but the second time, like the first mission where you have to take out the High Overseer, whatever his name is, I think I ended up bumbling that mission like I bumble all of them, and ended up just killing the guy and running away. This time I managed to do that where you knock him out and you drag him to the
yeah.
thing and you brand him so he gets labeled a traitor or whatever, and basically gets a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah. Like that shit is so. That's my favorite thing about Dishonored is
And
like this, like sort of more set piece ways you can take out a target.
but they're supernatural. Like they don't tell you, like a lot of games going in, they're like you can do this or you can do this or you can do that, and like some of those things you have to actually like explore and come across to unlock like like you talk to somebody and they're like, by the way, there's this branding room here. Like it doesn't necessarily give you a checklist of
Yeah.
outcome.
I heard if you branded him, he would have to go away. Like
Right.
it's
And it's
yeah.
not, I don't want to say it's necessarily the best, most like natural writing, but it's not a pre-mission like do this or this.
Yeah.
And now the one thing that bugged me on that mission, and I kind of remember it happening to me the first time too, is right before you leave, that girl back at your main base comes up to you and she's like, "Oh, my uncle's one of the good ones, and they're about to assassinate him because he'll never, bend to the will of the current overseer or whatever. Can you make sure he makes it out alive?" And it's a there's a lot of those side quest things that are optional, but they kind of change little bits of how people react to you and stuff.
Right.
And so I'm like, cool, yeah, I can try to do that. And basically the overseer's getting ready to poison him, and it gives you options like, I'll switch him, which would poison the overseer, which would be great, except for I wanted to keep him alive so I could brand him. You could do nothing, and then he'd get poisoned, or you can just break the glasses like before they come into the meeting room, and then deal with it from there. And so I did that, and then when they came in, I didn't know what else to do, and it made it sound like, because the overseer says something like, "Oh, I don't know what happened to him. I'll just have to take care of this myself." And so I thought he was about ready to just like slay the dude right on the spot. So I sleep darted them both, and then I took care of the overseer, and I left. I'm like, cool, mission accomplished. I'm so great. And I get back to my base, and the woman's like, my uncle never came back. Well, I'm sure you couldn't have done anything about it, you asshole, basically. Like, she's like treating me like shit now. I'm like, what? I thought I saved him. And then I read, apparently, you not only have to save him from that, but then you have to hide his body for some reason. Because it's not enough.
Well, yeah. Like, I mean, like, it should probably explain that to you a little better, but...
Well, yeah, because I assume like the overseer is the one that wants to take him out, and so I kind of assume like when the other guards find him sleep darted, they'll be like, "Oh, he was an innocent, casualty of this assassin out here." Not, "Oh, we found him. Thank God. Let's kill him anyway." But yeah, that part wasn't particularly clear, and that comes down. That's what most people, when I was reading about it in the forums, are like, "Yeah, it's not super clear in the writing. It was more of a writing thing than a whatever."
Yeah.
But,
yeah. And that, I think that carried over into 2 a little bit of just like there's always stuff where it's like I'm not exactly sure what this game's asking me to do.
Well,
right
and
now.
it's
So I'm gonna just ignore it and go.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
go
in
about
its
what
defense,
I
if I had
do.
stopped and actually pulled up my journal and looked at the objectives, I'm sure it would have been clear. But in that point, you're in that like I just branded him. Let's escape. I'm in badass mode. Like I'm not pausing to read my journal because I thought I had completed what I needed to do. So. And that's not, like I say, I'm not saying that as a major complaint, but that was fun. The second mission with the twins that you're supposed to take out, my only civilian casualty so far was that mission, and it was funny because I was doing super good. I snuck into that. Well, I did all the side stuff to with the, what are they called, the bottle gang or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't remember much about that game, honestly, like in terms of like the groups and factions.
But I did all that. That side mission was actually longer than the main assassination mission, like to go do all the things that they were asking you to do. And part of that was a immediate result of me in the prior mission poisoning those guys at the bequest of Granny Rags. But anyway, so I did all that, and then I got into the Golden Cat, like the brothel. And there's kind of a side thing that also has to do with that bottle whatever gang, or and you have
the
to
bottle
like,
boys.
Yeah, you have to find that art dealer that you're trying to get the combo to his safe, and he's got that like electrocution fetish, so he's all blindfolded and in the electrocution chair, and you sneak in. Maybe you didn't do it because it's optional, but he thinks you're the prostitute basically that he normally has, and of course you shock him until he tells you the stuff. But on my way to him, I get into this room, and there's a passed out guy and a prostitute standing over, or courtesan I should say, or whatever, standing over him like, you're supposed to report to duty, you weren't supposed to, you promised me you wouldn't get this drunk, and blah blah blah. And the little objective marker was over his head, so I thought that was the guy with the combination. And I assumed it was like in his pocket since he was passed out. I could like get it, or I could pick him up and like go interrogate him or whatever. But she's there, and I'm like, well, I've got to take care of her, but that should be easy enough. So I wait for my opening, which is a short, like, a guard's pathing around nearby, but you get a window, and I blink down behind her, and for whatever reason, the choke out prompt wouldn't come up, but like the assassinate prompt would. But I didn't want to kill her, and then she turned around and saw me and started screaming for help, so I had to like just slice her face off. And then I realized the marker's actually pointing at something behind this guy, like in the room behind him. It wasn't pointing to him at all. And so I blink back up, and I'm like, whoops, like, well,
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
right.
So
I didn't get caught, but I'm like, well, sort of feel bad in a video game way, like she had nothing to do with anything and she got assassinated. Oh well. Um, but
Yeah.
no, it's such a fun game, like sneaking around and just trying to figure out all the different options that you have and um, just the different ways you can approach things. Uh, I don't know.
Yeah, I wish 2 stuck with me a little more than it did. Because I really liked that first game. And
Well, from
it
everything
wasn't
that you said about 2, is just it doesn't sound as open as 1, and that's the entire brilliance of the first one.
yeah, there's a little bit of that, and it's like when the game does feel open, it doesn't feel like there's much in there. Like there's not enough to like make me want to explore. I remember playing Dishonored, and I went all around like your fucking base camp or whatever, and like I checked every corner of that place. And in 2, you have this ship, and I didn't do anything on the ship. Like I had to get off it immediately because it was like, just get me to the next fucking mission.
Yeah.
And then you get to the mission, and it's like, well, fuck all this. Just get me to the next objective point. And like, there's just so much of 2 that feels like it's wasting your time, and it's like, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Because at its core, I don't think there's anything like fundamentally wrong with it. It's just weaker in every way.
There's nothing that wrong with it. It's just terrible in every conceivable way you can.
Yeah, that's
Not quite what you
I
said,
meant.
but yeah.
That's yeah. But like that's because like I thought Dishonored the first game I thought was really well done, and I thought the DLC was even better.
Yeah.
So I had high hopes, and it didn't pan out.
I'm looking through my notes here. I guess I've had a few interesting, like, this would be a great game for me to stream. It's just I haven't been doing any streaming. But there was a mission where you had to sneak into some doctor, not the same doctor that you kidnapped, but some guy that's like doing plague research, like really bad plague research too. But you had to sneak in to get some information. And the mission itself it's a side mission. It's nothing to write home about. But there was one point where I'm sneaking around up in this mansion, and there's like a little side room that I'm in, and there's 2 guards in the main room that I need to get into, and I'm using my dark vision to watch them and kind of plan what I'm going to do. And I like think I see my opening, and I'm like, yeah, this should work. I think I can do this, or I might even be able to. I've been a lot more successful, probably because I'm uneasy, at just getting in and out without even knocking people out. Just get what you're after and then warp back out unseen. So I was about to do that, and all of a sudden one of the 2 guards, there was a couple like random rats in the room, and he decides to go over and start stomping on them like they do. Well, the frickin' rats decide to run through the doorway and around the corner to where I'm at for no particular reason. And of course that asshole chases them in there. But I wish I had been waiting for it, because video game characters don't have expressions anyway. But it's the kind of game that you get immersed in, and it makes you picture like this guy like fucking rats stomping him, and he chases him around the corner, and all of a sudden Corvo's just standing there.
Yeah, then you see a dude in fucking metal skull mask, like
sword in one hand and a pistol in the other, crossbow in the other.
No one. You never thought your life would end this way, but.
And I give it to the guards. They always are like, oh, and pull their weapons instead of being like, oh, dude, that's cool. Like, I didn't see you. Yeah. I'm out of here. Like,
that's how I would handle it. I would pretend I did not see him.
I'm not getting paid well enough for this. Like,
yeah.
But so that one was fun because that pissed me off. It was just like a random rats decide right now to run into my room for no reason. Good news is I haven't fallen to my death as much as like last time I streamed it. That last mission where I kidnapped the physician, I was surprised, like, because it's a relatively long mission. You have to like go through. He's the one that lives in like the mansion on the bridge, and so you have to like go the whole length of the bridge, and you have to take out spotlights on the way and get through all these different areas. And I complete the mission. It brings up the stats, and it said guards killed none, guards incapacitated 4, bodies found 2. And I couldn't believe out of that whole mission I only choked out or sleep darted 4 people. And then I'm not shocked that they found, because I almost never hide the bodies because there's really not much reason to. But there is if you're going for like ghost or whatever. But unfortunately, one of the drawbacks of that game is they still have those like idiot AI guards where even if they get alarmed, they'll be like, "Oh, somebody's here. We're gonna get you." 30 seconds pass, and they're like, "Never mind."
Well, you
Like,
must have gotten away. And then they sheath
we're
their
gonna,
shit.
yeah, and we'll quit even looking over our shoulder because I'm sure he's not here anymore. Like, whatever.
Like you could see Corvo chopping off your best friend's head, and then just after like 20 seconds, be like, "Well, it must have been the wind."
Right.
Yeah.
His, he was getting old. His head fell off. Dumb and Dumber reasoning. But
Yeah.
no, I'm really enjoying the game. So
Yeah,
I
that's
played
cool.
a lot of that. Uh, I should stream it or maybe at least record some of it. Maybe I will. Um, I did play some Overwatch the other night. Like, I
Yeah, I
just
saw you
needed
were
a
back
break.
in.
I played some competitive, like ranked Overwatch, which I
Hey,
didn't think I
hey.
was going to do this season. I was like, whatever. It was a good night. I won all the games. The first match was one of those infuriating ones where, and I think it was the same group of people that we were in the one time with your brother, because there was a girl that was doing most of the talking, but her voice sounded the same. And then like the guys that are just going to agree with anything she says because they're like, it's a girl on the internet. And they were all so smart and so good, and they were bitching because I was roadhogging, and they're like, "Can't you get anything with your hook?" And I had 45%. I wasn't having a great game with my hook, but I ended up 45%, which isn't terrible. But
It's not terrible, and it's
and I
really
had,
not.
and we won we won the game, and I had 4 golds. So it's like, well, maybe I'm not
Yeah.
playing Roadhog as great as I can, but if I'm missing all my hooks and I'm still out damaging you guys and I'm still on the point more, then what the fuck are you doing? Like,
Good
well,
enough.
and the biggest thing is my SR right now, I've like clawed my way up to like 1700. And that's where it pisses me off when people want to act like that in the game. It's like, if you're so good, what the hell are you doing down here at my rank? Like, you obviously suck. But anyway, it was still good. We won, and then they all dispersed, and that was great. And then the team I got on next, we played like 3 or 4 games, like rounds together, and they were just awesome. Like, we couldn't lose. Part of it was there was a couple really good people on the team, and it was just good synergy because they were all like very positive, kind of funny. Like, I didn't say a word into my mic in any of the games because I usually don't, but I'm just sitting there.
Yeah.
And they're all like chatting away and they're having a good time with it, and that's so much fun in Overwatch when you get on a good like positive team.
Yeah, and that's that is the eternal conflict of Overwatch is like when you get that group of people who are like you want to win, like you're playing competitive because you want to compete, but like you don't want assholes, and it's it's a flip of the coin, but and it's not like a flip of the coin like match per match. It really seems to be like a night thing.
Yeah, that's what's
where
weird.
it's like one night you'll have like a perfect stretch, and I totally did in my placement matches and a few matches after this last season, and then the last few competitive matches I just got a total shit show.
Yeah.
Of just like, well, if you can't DPS, then why'd you pick Soldier? And it's like, I can DPS. You guys aren't shooting fucking Zarya after I get her down to 1. It's like you guys don't fucking prioritize any of the people who are fucking us up. And
that fun team that I was on, there was a guy on it, and I know it was a guy because he was talking. It's not like I'm just guessing. And I wish I remembered his username. I should have I never do this anyway, but I should have sent like friend requests out. But he played Genji the whole night, and so of course at first you see that and you're always just like, okay, he was fucking amazing. Like the team would actually call out targets, so do what somebody would be low and they say, "Oh, finish off Mercy or finish off so and so," and then you just see Genji zip across the sky and be like, "Mercy's down," and then do his like lunge slide, like Farah's down, and then zoom over and be like, "Up, Soldier's down." Like, it was the most amazing thing to watch. And it's totally a big reason why we won. But I think that's the first time I've ever seen like a truly good Genji play.
they exist. Like,
It made it really fun because at one point I was almost just like standing there watching him. Like, I don't know how they do it because if I play Genji, it's the worst thing you've ever seen. But good ones seem to be able to kill people like in a blink of an eye. Like I said, he would zip over, and like as soon as he'd get to their position, they'd fall over dead. Then he'd like wall jump up to somebody else and they'd be dead. And you're just like, what the fuck?
It's how it always feels when you're like fighting a Genji. Like how it's just like, oh shit, he's getting closer, closer. Oh no. And then you're dead. And
Yeah.
it's like, when do we get that Genji? And
I did, and it
it's,
was fun.
yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
we even had one match with a Bastion that we kicked ass because when your team coordinates, it helps too. We were on Hollywood, and just that first choke point, the Bastion set up kind of like in the far corner where the steps are, and everybody else is smart enough to stay like on the other side of that archway. So the other team, they'd either have to run in and immediately address Bastion and turn their backs to us, or they'd have to run in and try to fight us with a Bastion behind them. And the
Yeah.
other team just wasn't good enough to figure out a way to counter that. It didn't help that the other team had an offensive Torbjorn, which I've seen that work, but not on that map in that situation. Like,
And it's like that's a character pick that I really think like you're one and done. Like unless you get picked off early, like if you don't put it together like right away, then switch
right.
because
Well, that's
you
why, I mean, when we're entrenched on the spot you're trying to take with a Bastion, Torb's turret doesn't move. So what good is that going to do you? Like maybe he kept putting it in the like archway, like far back, so we couldn't stand in the archway, but we weren't standing there anyway because that wasn't, we needed to draw him through it.
Yeah.
So it
well,
helps
like
that we were
an
playing some.
offensive Torb to me, like when I've had it work, it's been like it's a situation where you get a push, and then you kind of like you plant the turret almost as like a distraction.
Right, you lock down an area with it, like so that they can't.
Yeah.
Or I've seen it work early on, although people are a lot better now and they counter it better. But when I first started playing Overwatch, on the escort missions, when you're pushing the payload, if you put it on top of the payload, because then it's at least moving where you're moving. But then you still need a Diva or a Reinhardt or somebody to protect it.
Yeah,
But,
you need firepower there.
yeah.
But like putting turrets on the payload is a totally valid strategy. I do it all the time.
I've seen
Oh.
what's that map? I'm so bad with the names. But the one where this point B has the like little floating platforms that like go in a circle around it. Not
Yeah,
around it. What is it?
I'm
Watch
so bad with
Point
map names
Gibraltar,
on that
maybe?
game,
Yeah.
so I don't
Anyway,
know.
it's the one that's the big robot factory, and then point two. You have to like infiltrate that room, and there's just the little floating platforms on the one side, and the other side has that raised platform with the thing that goes up and down that carries you up to
Yeah.
it. But anyway, normally you'll see a defensive Torbjorn put his turret on the moving platforms because then it kind of just zips in and out, makes it harder to hit because it's moving, and it just pesters the other team. But I've seen offensive ones get it up there, and it kind of does the same thing.
Yeah,
So
because
anyway,
you can get it on that platform either way.
right.
Um,
And it's
you
a
know.
distraction, but you still need a strong enough team so that the distraction's something that they can't address. Otherwise, you just turn and kill.
Yeah,
turn
and then you
but-
have that second thing of like you got to be hitting your shots, and that's like Torbjorn. I like him, but that's because a lot of his shots remind me of Hanzo.
And his
like
rivet gun's freaking powerful if you can hit him.
it's powerful, but it's got that kind of arc to it, and you
And
gotta
it's slow, yeah. You have to lead
you
your
have to
target
be
and adjust for the arc. It's
yeah, like if you're not eliminating the other team in fucking spades, then you're not offensive Torbjorn correctly, and it might be time to move on.
I
But
definitely got your holiday luck with the Chinese New Year loot boxes, so I've got nothing but crap. Everybody I've talked to, that's the case with. And
I have not played
yeah,
since they've started this event, and I don't think I'm going
I was
to.
gonna say I'd care more, but I don't. Like, there's nothing. Some of the skins are kind of cool, but I
Well,
don't
I'm
really
gonna
care.
buy the Anna one probably. Like I haven't bought it yet because I might get the urge to play again while the event's still going, and then I might just earn it anyway. But on the last day of it, I'll go and buy the Anna one just because that one's hilarious to me.
Yes. Especially in combination with the I think it's the player of the game like cutscene you can get where she's kind of like kneeling down and the camera's looking up, And then it's great combination.
Yeah. But I kind of had the urge a couple days ago to play, but it's just that it is just that thing of like, that sounds so fucking exhausting. And it's not just Overwatch. Overwatch always has had that thing with me where it's kind of exhausting, but just everything going on these days. Like the last week, it's been so hard to have the motivation to do anything.
See, and it's kind of been the opposite for me. It's the one when I just can't handle any more mental, like, gravitas or whatever. I don't know how to even word that. But when I just need something that I can shut my brain up. But I've been playing mostly, the other night I played comp, and that was like the first time in ages. Play mostly quick play because I think I finally mentally snapped to where I don't fucking care. Like, I can get on the worst team and people can drop every 30 seconds, and I just don't care. Like,
yeah, but I'm like, I'm getting frustrated playing fucking Peggle. So it's like,
so yours is more like you don't want to murder your family and then be like, oops, what did I just do?
Like, yeah, like I don't want to. I really don't want to break my hand pounding my counter because fucking something happened in a silly game of Overwatch, and I'm not mature enough to deal with it right now. But I'm like getting fucking mad at Peggle. Like, why didn't the ball fucking bounce and hit 5 more things? And it's like, dude, the whole reason you're playing this is because you just want to chill out while you listen to a podcast. Like, look at yourself.
Yeah. There's been that thing going around on Twitter that I'm not going to do because it would just be like depressing for me. But we're one of those things where it's like, oh, for every retweet I get or whatever, every like, I'll answer one of these questions on this list of like gaming things. And it's like if I did it, I'd get like 1 like, and I'd be like, oh, I answered a question. Cool. Nobody likes me. But anyway, one of the questions was something like, what's the maddest that you've ever gotten at a video game? And that's a hard one for me because it happens so often. But up there has to be back when we were playing Trials Evolution, like kind of going back and forth competing with each other.
Oh, there were dark times with Trials for sure.
It was a combination of that added and it's the great thing to add, but it's an awesome but very frustrating game to begin with. And then when it's you I was competing against, that just makes it worse. And then there'd be like a course where I'd be kicking your ass finally, and be like, haha, he'll never beat that. And then like you hit one bump slightly wrong. You don't even mess up. You just like land a little bit off like center, and your stupid ass dot would like fly past you, and you're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, and anytime around that time, anytime you beat a time of mine, I made it a point that I was going to take the goddamn time back.
Yeah,
and I'm
I'd play the same
obsessive
track
enough
for like 3 hours just to try to.
Yeah, well, you made the mistake of competing with me on something,
right?
And you have a life to live. I'm not.
I never ended up. There were times I'd beat your scores, but at the end of the day, I think you ended up taking them all back, every single one. And you beat the game.
I think for a while, and then I lost access to that Xbox account.
Oh, that's right.
I think you took a few back, and then I couldn't log back in.
Man, I'm surprised it doesn't keep you up at night still.
Not really. I proved my point.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Maddest I got though probably still has to go to the PSP karate chop.
Well, that's
shattered the screen. But that is, if you watch, there's a lot of clips of childish speedrunners breaking their shit too, and there's just that, like, you're not done being pissed, but you just did a really stupid, expensive thing.
Yes.
Where it's just
and then you have to convince yourself, I'm glad that happened.
Yeah, I mean, and the last...
You're not. There's no part of you that's glad about it, but...
Yeah, but you have to... Mentally, you have to convince yourself, like, yeah, good. Because I don't want to fucking play video games anymore. I'm done.
Well, that one didn't work anyway, so when I buy a new one, it'll work better, because that one was broken or something.
Right.
But, no, I've always been good enough to pull myself away from that on a system itself or a handheld, but there's been some controllers that have met their...
fucking...
Controllers are much better. Some of them can be $50 or $60.
Yeah, usually they are. And, like, Dark Souls was a lot of fucking controller slamming. just childish fucking, like, not even, like, nowadays, like, I feel like I've gotten better. Like, I make a conscious effort to, like, if I throw a controller, like, I'm not, like, whipping it into a wall. I'm throwing it, like, into, like, onto my bed or something and just, like, walking away. But, I mean, and fuck, when did I play Dark Souls? Like, 2-3 years ago? But even then, I was, like, fucking slamming it into the ground.
See,
Just,
the last controller that I broke that way pissed me off because it was the okay, I'm mature now, like we have a big fluffy couch and I was sitting on the couch playing. It was an Xbox controller. Something happened and I got mad and I stood up and I'm like, I'm gonna throw it into the couch though. And like not only that, but I aim for like the crevice of the couch so it won't, it'll just wedge itself in there, nothing will happen, right? Well, of course it hits the cushion and it bounces. It hits a pillow, it bounces. It bounces back, it rolls on the couch and then just falls from the cushion to the floor.
yeah,
Like I've dropped it farther on accident and it's perfectly fine. And it's like National Lampoon's series of events happens and it still breaks and you're like,
yeah, like my fucking last PS4 controller I broke. It was that same thing where I kind of I wasn't even mad. Like I was just turning shit off and I tossed it on my bed and it did the goddamn fucking mousetrap, goddamn bounce, bounce, and then like hits fucking metal somehow and just like my bed frame and like,
it
fucking
explodes.
It didn't explode, but it bent. So like the plastic was like the analog stick was trying to like pop out, but it was still like attached, and it was all fucked. And I was like, God damn it.
And I don't get it because like in both those situations, it's like I've put way more force upon this thing in other situations. Like even in the course of playing a video game, like how was there enough like physics there to even do any damage?
But yeah, how did it hit this many things and lead to
it's like the
me being out $60?
Right. There's like the one keystone little piece of plastic that you happen to hit that's like the self-destruct button and it just like brushes something and it's like haha.
Yeah, and fucking like Bloodborne, like kind of as I've gotten away from, by trying to fucking protect my bank account first and foremost, and like I still need that kind of like release of like you're exasperated, you're frustrated with something. I play games that are too difficult for me to not react in some way. But what I've kind of started doing was just like I'll just sort of like do this like light toss with the controller into
like the
air.
Sarcastic, like
yeah, and I catch it. Like I've never dropped it when I do that. I don't throw it high in the air. I just kind of flip it and just sort of like like kind of deflated.
Yeah.
And you're just sort of, it's just that sort of exasperation. And I did that with Bloodborne, and somehow the fucking controller, like the one time I did not catch it, it bounced off me, hit my chair, somehow went higher, which like physically shouldn't be possible, and hit a fucking picture that my brother bought, which was like a fucking $100 goddamn like art print. And I'm just like, God damn it! I'm like, you're pissed still. You hope your controller's not broken, and you're apologizing for damaged property. And it's like,
but it should.
God damn it! I didn't mean for any of this.
You wish there was a camera rolling because then you could prove that physics was broken at that particular point.
Not only is there God, but he's fucking with me right now.
Right.
So like, please believe me.
That's exactly what that Xbox controller one was like, where it shouldn't have been able to bounce like the number of times it bounced because you didn't even throw it that hard. But it's just like, nope, we're now in Roger Rabbit land, and it's going to just bounce like a Looney Tune off of everything.
Yeah. Like, fucking, it's going to hit 5 things, flip a mousetrap that snaps a string, that brings a bowling ball down and lands on your head.
Right.
So that's...
And you don't even own a bowling ball. It just shows up. It's just like, here I am.
And the controller brought it.
All right.
So, yeah.
I'm glad that's like a universal, well, at least a universal thing for the Njoystic staff. Like, I like calling the two of us a staff, by the way, but...
Well, it pisses me off when that happens so much because there's a lot of legitimately dumb things I've done in like the heat of anger. And it's like, and like how many times have I like really fucking thrown a controller and nothing happened?
Right.
And then like when the controller breaks because I put it on the bed too rough for its
Yeah,
liking,
you set
that it
it
decided,
down with a little too much enthusiasm.
oh, you wanted to charge me? Well, you should have been more gentle plugging me into the fucking dock, you asshole. Now I'm
Yes.
gonna fucking like fall off the counter and like cartwheel into your toilet. Um,
Which again is downstairs in a completely different room.
yeah, in a different house. Like my neighbor will come
Your
over.
neighbor just knocks on the door and says, "Excuse me."
Yeah, it'll be like a fucking pet, and when my neighbor comes over, like I hit your controller with my car. I'm so sorry. I was like, fuck, dude.
What was it doing out there? But
Yeah.
uh, speaking of the flimsiest controller I have, I think is the PS3 one, and I don't know why, but I bought it used, so maybe it was handled roughly. But
They're all, yeah, like PS3 controllers in general. I don't have a high opinion of.
no, like mine does this thing where, and that one's is one that I have never gotten angry and thrown at all, or even whatever. I guess it's fallen
You
on the
can't
bed
trust Sony
sometimes.
products. Like that's what I'll say. As a conditioned, trained, hissy fitter, you got to know what company you're dealing with.
Right. Like
Nintendo
those,
stuff is surprisingly durable,
right,
even when there's like screens on what you're holding. Sony shit will break if you hit it with a paper airplane.
right.
The
The
and
360
Xbox stuff is
controllers,
somewhere in the middle.
I don't know, the 360 ones, some of the ones that I had, maybe, but see, I've had a lot of aftermarket ones too, and those go either way. But some of them, like we have a brick fireplace under our TV, and there were sometimes I get so mad.
Fire.
Not in fire. Fire doesn't work, but I've thrown it against the brick with the express intention of breaking it, and it'll bounce back and be like, I'm good. You're like, oh, well, I'm kind of not mad anymore because I'm impressed. But then it do that thing where it rolls off the couch and shatters. But no, the Sony one, like I've never treated it rough because I've barely played any PlayStation games. It's mostly a very expensive Netflix box. Or expensive at the time. Now it's probably cheaper than a Netflix box. But it does this thing where, like, if you, it's a wireless controller, so and the battery in it lasts like 5 minutes. So basically, you turn the controller on, pick your show on Netflix, and then turn the controller off. For the love of God, you don't leave it on while you're watching a movie because it'll be dead by the end. But when you hold the PlayStation button down to get to that menu to turn the controller off. But if you press the PlayStation button a little too hard, and I don't even mean like angry hard, just like, oh, I'm pressing a button hard, it'll register as pressing the start button because it's so flimsy inside that it's like just bending the whole like
It's the whole inner workings
they're
are
moving.
tilting.
Right. So that's frustrating. But anyway, I forgot how shitty the PlayStation 3, like everything about the menu system and the console itself, other than like the games, but like the console experience was, until the other night I went on and I talked about it last week, and it's getting worse because I keep hearing better and better things about it. But Yakuza 0 came out and I'm like, man, I can't play that quite yet, but I have Yakuza 4 from PlayStation, Gold, whatever. And I don't currently have an active Gold subscription, but I was like, it might be worth it for a month just to play the game.
Yeah.
So, but I went in and I noticed. Well, first I wanted to just try to fucking play it without the thing because I know you're not supposed to be able to. But what's the harm in trying, right?
Sure.
I thought I had it installed, but I didn't. I had claimed it, but I never installed it. And it lets you at least install it without the plus thing. I have a feeling it's not going to let me play it. It's not supposed to.
All right.
But it was one night right before bed, and I went in and I'm like, I didn't notice that it wasn't installed. I just clicked on the icon to see if the game would run, and it's like, oh, downloading and installing. Well, that game's like 30 gigs, and we wanted to watch Netflix.
Yeah, and so 30 days.
Right.
To download.
But I knew we'd want to watch something sooner than a week and a half later. So I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to install this now. Cancel. No. PlayStation 3, once you start, you're not supposed to be able to stop. And it's like, oh, don't turn off your system. I'm like, well, fuck you. I'm turning off my system. And that was literally the only... And you couldn't even do the hold the power button down. Like, I tried that, and you hold it down, and it does that, like, beep, 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 ha-ha. you're not supposed to turn me off right now. And I
And
was like,
fucking yank it out of the wall.
right. And then
Stop.
And then I'm like, I outsmarted you. And you plug it back in and you boot it up, and it's like, it shut down improperly. We have to scan your hard drive to make sure it's not corrupted. And if it is, it'll need fixed. And it could take up to 15 hours. And it's like, son of a bitch. And fortunately, it didn't. It took like 5 minutes for it to say, nope, everything's good. But man, that whole experience is terrible.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. Like, I know you don't have one, but comparing like the PS4 to like the PS3, like the step up just in like in that convenience of like it still has shitty downloading speeds. Shit takes way too long.
But at least it downloaded, and that was the other fun thing. It's like downloading, and it's like 4 hours later, it's like finished. You're like, thank God. And it's like installing.
Yeah, and you can pause if you're trying to do other shit and it's fucking something up. I don't usually have that problem. Usually I can do anything while the download's running and it'll be okay.
It can download and update things in sleep mode so that you can
you can go to fucking bed and not worry about having your stupid console on all night. It's a PS4. I can't say enough good things about it. In terms of like just how they fixed like all that shit. Yeah.
Right. But it still makes me wonder, because some of this stuff, I understand not all of it, because some of it has to do with architecture and design. Some of that stuff is still addressable on the PlayStation 3, though, and it's like they're just like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, it was addressable for years, and they never fucking did anything with it.
But then they're like, we acknowledged it was a problem, but that is also acknowledging that you just didn't.
To be fair, like we're kind of seeing now with Nintendo, when they're done with something, they're fucking done. And
I was going to say,
speaking of which,
the one UI thing that I hate more than anything on the PlayStation 3 is the 3DS is like downloading, but it doesn't give you a progress bar, and it makes that like bling bling.
Yeah, it
bling. You
plays
can turn
a little song
off,
for
like,
you and shit. And
could be for 20 minutes, could be for 5 hours. You don't know.
But they did announce, or not announce, it's been reported, I think, that their online service for the Switch is going to be between $15 and $30 for a year.
Yeah, and that's not bad.
And I mean, that's what they, pricing wise, they really needed to do.
I didn't really expect it to be more than that, though. I don't know.
I didn't, but there was so much we didn't know about it. So
is all the like online multiplayer locked behind that, though, or is that just if you want? Like,
I think so.
Game service and stuff.
I think so. I think it's going to be like online shit's going to be free until they get it running, because obviously you got Mario Kart coming out and Splatoon. That will be out before they have that ready. So they're going to let you play obviously while that's being built. I think that's the price point they needed to hit. And the thing is, like, you would think that's what you would expect from them, but with Nintendo, I don't know what to fucking expect in terms of online stuff, and I still don't.
Because you need a freaking phone app to like.
Yeah, like this is all done through a phone app still, and like even then, it's like if this was a traditional online service, I would still say it should only be $15 to $30.
Right.
But the fact that it's going to be this weird app thing is like, depending on how fucked that whole experience is, no one might want to pay anything for it.
Right.
And it's, there's still so many questions with that. For someone who's on his phone as much as I am, like the idea of trying to navigate any sort of multiplayer system through it and then going to like the console.
Yeah, that
sounds like such a pain in the ass.
Right.
That they're really going to have to, like, they have their work cut out for them in terms of like making that an appealing option.
Right.
Like, not only do you have to pay for online play now, but you have to like jump through these stupid fucking smartphone hoops. Because we're emphasizing portability, even though the Vita tried that. I don't know. I'm trying not to be negative about the Switch until we know more about it, but it's such a fucking mess to me.
Yeah. we'll see.
Yeah.
The advantage is I have no desire to like be the first on board, so I can let the stuff come out and see where it lands, and then decide.
Right.
Um,
I mean, and I'm still in that ball camp of like, I end up with pretty much every system eventually. The Xbox One seems to be the one exception to
yeah,
that.
and the Xbox One is amazingly like we've talked about it before. I really thought that would be the one that I'd want this generation because the 360 I liked way better than the PlayStation 3.
Sure.
And now I almost forget the Xbox One even exists. It's weird. And then something happens like they were talking about this a new indie platformer I think came out today or comes out soon, but a new launch trailer came out for it. It's called like Candleman or something. A Candlelight, Candleman. I think it's Candleman.
Candleman.
But the screenshot with the tweet I saw, I'm like, this looks really pretty. Like, and that instantly catches my eye. And then I like looked it up, see what it was, and I'm like, it looks like it could be kind of cool. And I'm like, why haven't I heard of this? Normally, if there's some like really cool looking indie platformer, I know about it. Then I realized it's through the ID at Xbox program, so it's only on Xbox One, and that tells you that Xbox did no marketing for this whatsoever, which tells me that they've missed the point when they had their ID at Xbox program. Like, yeah, the money to help publish these indie games is great. That's what any independent publisher wants. But if you don't also help market and push these games, you're not doing anybody any favors. But
yeah,
anyway, the Xbox One, I have no desire to buy that.
Yeah, and even when it first came out, like obviously that had a very troubled launch year with all of its like policy stuff and then backing away from the policy, establishing new policies, and it was a mess. But outside all those criticisms, I was still like, well, I'll probably end up with one eventually. It's just,
There's
prioritizing.
No reason to buy one yet. We talked about it last week. They don't really have. I can't think of a single like must-play game. Or even,
they don't have that. Yeah, they don't
play game.
Like they don't have any exclusives that I'm really like anything that isn't exclusive on there. If it's not already planned for the PC, it will.
Right.
You it will. Like even like you were just talking about Candleman, like
I guarantee it'll be on Windows at some
point. Like Limbo was one of those games that was like that would not have happened without being on Xbox 360 when it was, and then it came out on fucking everything because those deals run out.
Right. Normally, and I get Microsoft's not like super enthusiastic to say it's like a 1-year exclusive. They're just going to say exclusive. But normally that's what, and I could be wrong. Maybe it will never come. But as good as interesting as the game looks, and is not meant in like a derogatory way at all. If I go my entire life and can't play Candleman, and it's like, oh, I probably would have liked that, but there's so many other options. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I'm definitely not going to buy a $300 or $400 system to play it. Like,
well, it's just like the PS4 for me took the 360's spot, and it's kind of interesting how because it's like the games, most of the games I play on the PS4 are games I could you could play on an Xbox One, but it's just I have a PS4 because there's just they have comparable if it's a multi-platform game, there's not so much of a difference in tech that it's really a big deal either way. But then there are those few PS4 exclusives that I want to have. And then now that I have a PC that can actually run worth a fuck, most of the games that are on Xbox I can play on Windows. It's
funny too because then you see stuff. This Candleman had me thinking. They have the ID at Xbox program, which when they announced it, it was along with all their other console announcement stuff. It's like, cool, they're going to support indies. Where they landed, I don't think the Xbox One owner crowd has a huge interest in indie games. Like, maybe this is wrong, maybe it's bad stereotyping, but like the people that have and love their Xbox Ones, to me, come across as like the Gears of War, Call of Duty crowd.
Like they have their Xbox, they're like the Xbox Live crowd. Like they have their friends list. They wanted to keep all that when they made the jump to the new system. I know plenty of people who are kind of that way, where it's like, like, yeah, maybe I'll get a PS4, but I gotta have an Xbox One because all my Xbox shit is there. Yeah, that is a fair point.
Certainly, like anytime you make a statement like that, I'm not saying there can't possibly be an Xbox owner that likes indie games. I just don't think that that's a huge portion of their crowd.
Yeah, there's something. It's a weird, like in a weird way, it was just sort of the next box for a social product they made.
But what hurts them is that Sony kind of caught up with that. Like,
yeah, because there were people who were like, well, fuck, I can get more out of, for whatever reason they thought they could get more out of a PS4, and that's cool. I kind of like, I don't know what's like, Xbox is in kind of a weird spot in my mind where it's like they seem to be backing PC more, but it's like, okay, but you're making another Xbox, so what are you?
And I was gonna say that too. I think it was all a result of their really terrible launch and their like not misguided, but their wishy-washy like branding and policies with the Xbox One that forced them. Because I really don't think they were going to do this. Like, oh, basically everything that comes to Xbox One is coming to Windows 10. But then they realized, like, they're like, well, shit, we've flubbed this launch, and if we don't bring these games to Windows, we don't have a big enough. Yeah, there's not a big enough market.
Like we can be getting a profit if we bring it to Windows. If we keep it on one, we're taking a loss.
But on the flip side, what that did, that really, really, really made the Xbox superfluous for me because, like I said, even any game that comes out that's a Microsoft published game, so you know it's not coming to PlayStation. If it's a good game, they want to sell it so it comes to Windows, so I can already play it without buying the Xbox. They're like one or two, and I can't even think of them off the top of my head, Xbox One exclusives that aren't available on Windows. They're like big name good ones anyway. There's nothing. I'm not saying that I wouldn't like them or wouldn't play them if I had it, but they're not games that are going to make. They basically left themselves with nothing to like convince most of us to buy an Xbox unless you were already just an Xbox fan, which is fine.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm grateful because I'm poor. Yeah. So thanks, Microsoft, if you're out there.
I mean, I will say out of the friends that I have that have Gen 8 systems, more of them have the Xbox One than PlayStation 4, and that goes back to them being 360 owners, and like I said, that can carry over there.
So you're like me and all my friends were 360 owners, but we almost all, like, one of my friends has both, but like all my other friends, like it was like if they got another system, it was a PS4, and it was kind of weird.
Forced to, because Bloodborne, like I couldn't see you passing on that game.
Yeah, that was a big one. Like GTA 5 was the one that made me pull the trigger when I did though, and I was like, because there was like a bundle where it was like you get GTA 5 and The Last of Us.
That was on 360.
Yeah,
but not The Last of Us.
But you can't play it in first person, so it's not even. That ain't even fucking GTA 5, man.
And then, of course, Kingdom Hearts. I mean, there was just so many things that I think that you're more drawing you personally to Sony.
I mean, Kingdom Hearts that's a hostage situation. That's
yeah.
I don't even look at that with fondness.
Aren't the remakes coming out here in the next week or two or a couple weeks?
The remakes of the HD remakes. Well, here's the fucked up thing: is I've already bought these remakes for the PS3. And now they're re-releasing them for the PS4, and I will buy them. But this time it will only be because I want to stream them, and I think those will be really funny for other people, probably painful for me. Playthroughs of those fucking shit shows. Those are coming out, I think, at the end of March, and then they just released 2.8 or whatever the fuck they're calling it. Yeah. They just released that last week, I think. The kind of the nice part though, when you have that sort of guilty pleasure, and not guilty pleasure as like I like it and I'm ashamed of it. I mean, I don't like it, but I feel like I have to fucking keep playing them. The nice thing about being poor is you start to prioritize a little better, and so Like, there's so many games coming out, like right fucking now at the beginning of the year. Like, we got Resident Evil 7 just came out, Neo's hitting next week, Horizon, that's coming out at the end of February, I think. And then like March, you got Zelda, and so like I have to think about all that shit, and then I got to be like, well, I'm not fucking paying $60 for a goddamn Kingdom Hearts game I've bought twice.
Right.
Yeah. So like I will get those remakes eventually, just because, like I said, I think they're good stream fodder. But I'm not gonna
You're not
put
gonna,
myself.
yeah, you're not gonna miss out on one of these upcoming new games just so you can
Yeah.
play the same game you've played 3 other times.
And Determined I hated. Like, like I only played them because like I've been playing them since the beginning, and like I want to know where the fuck this story goes. And these remakes offer little fucking chapters and shit. And like the one they just put out, there's a not really a full game, like just sort of, it's almost like a teaser of like the
3, right?
yeah, of 3, and like they have it running on that engine, they have that graphical style, and it sort of tells this little story about one of the characters from the prequel games. And I want, like, obviously I want that, like, I want that story filled out in my head. Even though it's a terrible story, I've gone too far. I gotta know.
Funny because when we first started doing the show, it was long enough ago that your entire outlook on the series was different. I think you were just kind of started to go down the like this downward spiral, but like you're still by and large you're like, oh yeah, that's one of my favorite series.
Mm-hmm.
And then like over the years it just slowly changed to now you like mention the word and you kind of like retch in your mouth a little bit.
Yeah, I bristle a little bit. Like I get like because I played the fucking remakes and that fucked everything up.
Like, wait, these games sucked. What was I thinking?
Before they were great memories, and then like they released these remakes after I played better games, and it's like it's that mix of like nostalgia and like just having no sense of like quality control when you're a child and you're playing something like that. And they like I can't excuse why I keep playing it now, but it's that thing of like it feels like I have to see the next. I have to see what comes next, even if that means playing shit that I've already fucking played. That is the biggest. That is probably the best fucking scam I've seen in the goddamn industry, though. The fact that game series hasn't even released its 3rd installment, like official installment, but they have like fucking 12 games. And like
half of them came out
re-releases
like, after they announced 3 was being made too. Like it's like, oh, we're making a 3, and here's the next Kingdom. Oh, just kidding. Here's
Let me. This will be quick, but let's see how many games are actually in this series and when they came out. Because this is fucked up.
Yeah.
There should be a timeline here. Here we go. So Kingdom Hearts came out in 2002. Chain of Memories was for the Game Boy Advance. Kind of bridges the gap between 1 and 2. Came out in 2004. Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2005. That actually surprises me a little bit. I remember that game getting delayed a lot. Then nothing for 2 years, and then they re-released Chain of Memories for the PS2. Coded was a mobile game, 2008.
Well,
2000.
And real quick, we got to mention that the first concepts for Kingdom Hearts 3 were released in 2006. So we're
right.
You're already at this.
Yeah. After Kingdom Hearts 2, everyone's already thinking, all right, what's Kingdom Hearts 3?
It's us thinking like, oh, 3 is going to come out. Like they were talking about 3 in 2006. So keep that in mind.
Right.
We're already at 2 games released after that. I think Chain of Memories was after 6.
2007 was already Chain of Memories. So, everybody was looking forward to Kingdom Hearts 3 after 2. And they were, doing stuff to tease it. which is so absurd to me that we don't even have a fucking date for Kingdom Hearts 3, but that was 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So Coded came out on mobile games. That was kind of like a puzzle game more than anything. There's story bits to it, but it was kind of, we need something on a phone. 358 over 2 days for the DS came out in 2009. That is a kind of, that is taking place kind of during the same timeline as Chain of Memories. It's between 1 and 2. It's just a different character. So we're still not ready to move forward with this stupid story. So 2009, that happened. 2010, Birth by Sleep, a prequel before any of the games. RE coded because, that mobile game needed to be updated. Nothing in 2011. 2012, they finally fucking do something that actually moves the goddamn timeline along with Dream Drop Distance, which was a good game. I stand by that because I haven't had to replay it yet.
Yeah.
That'll change. And then, so that was 2012. 2013, 1.5 remix for the PS3. I don't even know how you pronounce. Kingdom Hearts Key was a role-playing browser. That doesn't sound right. Whatever. It was some fucking
spin-off-y thing.
Yeah, some browser-based stuff they did. I think mostly in Japan, and I think they just put it out here maybe last year. So the re-release train starts at 2013, which still sounds absurd. 4 years ago, they were HD remaking shit that we're still waiting for the sequel for. 2014, you got 2.5 remix. 2015, you got Unchained, which I think was the re-release of the browser game. And then 2017, we got the 2.8 final chapter prologue. And half of what I hate about this series are the fucking titles.
Yes.
It's so.
Although when I make fun of them on Twitter, everybody jumps on me like they make sense. It's like, okay, it doesn't make them not dumb.
Yeah, but the fact that I can explain to you what Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days means says there's something wrong with me.
Right.
It doesn't.
If I call a banana yellow, peely, curvy fruit, it makes sense, but it doesn't mean it's not stupid.
People aren't wrong for saying these are dumb titles. They're terrible titles. And final chapter prologue, you can say 358 over 2 days makes sense. I will defend to the death the fact that these fucking HD remakes there's no logic to them. Nothing's remixed. Nothing's different. It's fucking, it's the same game. They just made it. It's a remaster.
And by my
Kingdom Hearts Remastered.
My quick count there, that's at least 12 games that have come out since Kingdom Hearts 2, and Kingdom Hearts 3 doesn't even have a release date yet.
Yeah, and 1.5 and 2.5 are coming out in a couple months.
So that's 14. At least. Yeah. I think I might have missed one or two in there when you were going through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 games, not counting how they've been repackaged and shit. And stuff, right?
Yeah. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, that doesn't count. 12, 13. Yeah, so I count 13.
13, okay.
With if you count.
And God knows how many more there'll be because we don't know when it's coming out.
It's
that's the ridiculous thing to me is that, and they're not even saying okay, it'll be 2018. It's just we're making it.
Well, also what's people I've seen people they just. They were just talking about Final Fantasy VII, I think, had an anniversary or something, and Square doesn't have anything for it. They should really plan their game development better around anniversaries and stuff.
Well,
If
but
they
in
want that
fairness,
to mean
at
something.
this point, there's so many Final Fantasies that every year you're getting some kind of anniversary of some kind of Final Fantasy thing. Like,
Fair point. I'll give you that. But people were like upset because like they just released like a screenshot or like an image or something, and it was like, but when's it coming out? Like, when's this Final Fantasy remake coming out? The remake that people have already decided they hated because it's so fucking different from what they remembered because they want to just play that game
is
again.
the 7 remake, the one that's going like
Episodic, and it will be
like an action-y
action.
RPG?
Yeah, and it's not turn based anymore.
No, and I thought it looked kind of cool because I have no prior like commitment to
Yeah,
the old 7. Like,
I thought it looked pretty neat. I'm not sure if episodic's the way to go, but
Well,
you know,
yeah,
like
right.
it looked neat. But people were like, how come you don't have more to it? And I'm like, dude, this is fucking Tetsuya Nomura, who's working on this, and he's working on Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm sorry, you're not getting this fucking game. Like, I don't believe it. Like, I don't think this Final Fantasy VII remake will ever come out.
Or it'll end up being a rushed hack job at the end where they're like, yeah, we're sick of having this in limbo. Here you go.
Because what were we just talking about? If he's working on Kingdom Hearts 3, and that game has not come out yet in 12 years, how in the fuck do you think? Like, we don't have a date after 12 years.
Well,
how the fuck do you think he's going to like get this game done too?
When the PlayStation 4 was announced, I thought one of them was like, oh, in Kingdom Hearts 3 2006. Like, I thought at one point they tried to like put a very vague date on it, and then they like realized that they weren't even going to be close, and they just like, never mind. It's fucking not even like, oh, it got delayed a year. It's just like, nah.
Fucking Spock died before they could get that game out. They should have had all the time in the world to get that game done while he was still alive and could do the voice of the main fucking villain.
Maybe they had everything done except to his lines, and then he died, and they're like, son of a bitch.
God damn it. No, what happened was he was working on that, but they also wanted him working on Final Fantasy Versus 13.
And he kind of took
which
his
then
own life,
became
like,
15.
mentally.
And then they fucking like basically were like, fuck, he's not gonna get this done. So they fucking moved that job on to somebody else. As soon as they move it on to somebody else, the game's like, all right, it'll be out next year. But like,
Kingdom Hearts 3, they can't settle. Maybe that's what they're working on. Like, every single day they have a list of like voice actors come in and read lines. They're like, no.
Haley Joel Osment is the main character in Kingdom Hearts, and now like when he started, he could do like a kid voice, and then like
they'll be like, hey,
like now
it's
Sora,
not my bedtime. You can't tell me what to do.
At this rate, Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora is going to be like 45 and fat and fucking tired and just like, whatever, Donald.
No, I will not say I see dead people, damn it. I'm fucking sick of that.
I gotta go to work, man. I can't be fucking saving Mickey Mouse and shit. Like, it's, oh my God. And like, then like you add that Final Fantasy VII remake, I'm like, we're never getting any of these games at this rate. Like, I don't know how the hell, and I'm not shitting on him because I'm sure it's really hard to like take these projects on.
Well, and you think part of it's probably that he's spread across multiple projects instead of just, well, and
yeah,
when you say, oh, you know, it's his game, I mean, you can't ignore the fact that it's not, I mean, he's directing it, but in fact, there's two directors that says, I don't know who, Tai Yasui or Yasu, I don't know. I can't pronounce these names at all. But anyway, there's teams of like thousands of people working on it, but so it's not like, oh, it's him holding it up necessarily. It's just a huge project. But then when you split your attention across multiple things, that doesn't help, and that never speeds things up.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's partially that. I'm sure he's also, from what I've seen in interviews and stuff, he's, you know, kind of that perfectionist. Like he will happily take 10 more years, as we've seen, to make a game, you know, perfect in his mind.
Which is sad when they come out and you're like, oh, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But
you know,
who knows? But
whatever. It doesn't matter. He got my money, so
Yep. Sucker.
Good on you, I guess.
Well, I think we're
Yeah.
at our time. Actually, a little bit over, but
Yeah, I fell down the Kingdom Hearts rabbit hole, but
yeah. And that'll only get
happens.
worse over the next couple months, probably. But there'll be other
Yeah.
things in there as well, as you mentioned. There are a lot of things coming out.
Sure is.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being you.
And maybe next time we'll actually have some like music and transitions and stuff, but probably not, because I'll do the same thing where I wait till I get off work at 5. We start the show between 6 and 6:30. I don't try to do anything to help the show any other day of the week. It's just that like hour beforehand, I'm like, I'm gonna try to like implement all this new stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes.